So another big case that you worked was the death of Brittany Murphy, and that one got a lot of conspiracy theories on it because, then her husband dies of kind of the same thing 5 months later,
Right.
which made people think it wasn't an illness, that there was some conspiracy and that it was intentional. What do you remember from Brittany Murphy's death and all that?
Well, I know that there was it was just odd relationships between people. And, when the coroner investigator goes to a death scene, we're allowed to look places. We don't need a search warrant. We are investigating the cause of death of somebody. So we were opening drawers. They were opening drawers and looking for medications that specifically belonged to Miss Murphy, because that's part of our evidence collection. But at the time, she was married to Simon Monjack, and he hadn't passed yet. But it was just weird. And then her father comes into the scene, and they'd been kind of estranged for years. And he was wanted to find out more about why she died. And she didn't necessarily believe in the coroner's cause of death. So he had some lab work done on a lab out of state somewhere.
He had his own pathologist do his own thing.
Yeah. And so that was like, okay, fine. And so then he starts telling everybody, oh yeah, well, my lab found, metals in her system, toxic metals or whatever. And it's like, okay, but so anyway.
And you guys didn't find that in
No. And the problem with his lab work was it wasn't from an accredited lab. The specimens were not controlled, and it was just bad science from the get-go. It was just like somebody said, take a biscuit to the baker and say, bake this for me. And it's like, it has no idea what's in that biscuit. But
right.
That's kind of what it was. We just didn't know what we were dealing with, but we knew that it wasn't heavy metals, was what he was alleging.
Right. So what was the ultimate ruling on that one? Do you remember?
Well, I believe it had, as the primary was community-acquired pneumonia. She just was sick. And then when Simon Monjack came in 6 months later, or whatever it was, then everybody's suspicions got raised again. What's going on?
Because he died from the same thing, I think.
The same thing, right.
Crazy. It is a crazy coincidence.
Right.
But coincidences happen.
Right. And they were an unusual couple, so that they both went from the same circumstances. I don't find necessarily surprising. So we're in the house after Simon died, and we're looking for stuff, and Mom is there, and we're going through the drawers there, and this is the bed for Brittany and Simon slept in. But then she volunteers, that's my side of the bed.
Right.
So it's like, what? Are you really that close? It was just kind of an odd thing. We would still take the medications that belonged to Simon, but I don't know what she thought we were looking for or whatever. But then when she said it was her side of the bed, it's like, your son-in-law is...
You're sharing a bed with your son-in-law after your daughter died? That's
unique.
There were so many weird things like that with that case.
Yeah.
LA County Sheriff says he acted quickly to prevent graphic photos taken at the scene of Kobe Bryant's helicopter crash from being circulated.
What do you think? There was that whole scandal over, I think it was Sheriff's Department personnel supposedly taking photos of the Kobe Bryant crash scene and the bodies at that scene, and luckily they haven't been released because they jumped on it pretty fast. I think the department did, on clamping down on it.
A wise move on their part.
Yeah, that would anger a lot of people. I don't want to be a cynic, but I would be shocked if those don't eventually make their way online, because eventually someone's going to retire who has it and is going to see a way to cash in.
Or it's going to fall into somebody's hands, like, a family member or something will inherit it.
Sure.
And then,
box of files in the attic, and there they are.
Somebody
right.
will, put a phone call in to TMZ or something like that and say, hey, we got these, you interested? And,
right.
yeah, where's the money?
Yeah. But luckily that hasn't happened yet, which is
No, it's good that it hasn't. But yeah, it's a concern. You know, when I first started, we used Polaroid photos. That was our death scene documentation.
right.
And then we moved on to digital cameras, and that was a slow process, but it did help. And the investigator takes as many photos as they like, but they document in their report how many photos they took, and then those photos are moved from their memory card onto the department's system, so that they're in a system that nobody can access from outside, only internally.
It's interesting you said Polaroids. The photos of Biggie's Suburban that he was shot in are Polaroid photos. I have those. I've used them over the years, showing the bullet holes and the
Right.
what are they called? The rods that they use to do trajectory.
Trajectory rods, yeah.
Yeah.